But could they have started the process for permanent residence prior to being a temporary?
You could, yes. Usually Canada prefers person who Canada in the here, pay taxes, knows then why are we gonna let that person go?
Episode, what is this?
I think we're at 13. Yeah, but
No.
Every single
Is
episode we debate which episode it is.
We're episode 13.
But I think so far we're 13.
Really,
Yeah.
we're just clueless though. We have no idea.
We're just
Whatever.
keep
Does it really matter what episode it is?
Listen, man,
people
we're just
love
giving
us,
the people
alright?
we're giving the people what they want. That's
Exactly.
it.
You know what they
I mean?
want is Franklin Rodriguez.
Franklin Rodriguez.
My boy
Mikasa.
Frankie.
Gotta
Mikasa
make sure you
Canada.
roll that R.
Rodriguez.
What a
No, see,
fail.
that's French now. Rodriguez. Welcome, Frankie.
Thank
you for being on the show. We have an immigration consultant today with us on the BAM episode today, Broadcast Millionaires.
Bam.
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 Thank you. You're supposed
You too.
Bam.
There
There
we
you
go.
go.
Thank you very much. We are featured on Spotify, Apple, Google, and YouTube, as well as all the social media. So check us out. Subscribe below. Thank you very much. Now, thanks for another episode. And today we're going to talk about a hot topic in the news. We thought to bring Frankie on here and kind of explain to us, first of all, how to immigrate to Canada and what are some of the counterproductive policies that are being announced now. Perhaps we could dive into it because we have some conflicting information in the
Something
news.
has been announced?
Yeah,
Recently?
a couple
Okay.
things.
Okay. Good.
So, well, if you want to get into that, we know that the Minister of Immigration is saying that our permanent levels are good,
Yeah.
and Trudeau's coming back and saying, kind of going against it and saying the temporary amounts are bad. But I'm pretty sure this guy approves these things. No, so
But
if
before-
you give us
before-
high level,
Yeah, but before we start, I have to tell you that I'm a former long hair individual.
Oh no, why'd you?
So
tell
I
me
kind
this?
of kind of respect that, man.
Yeah,
That's a
I
lot of
love
work.
it. I
That's
love it.
why now I
Yeah, but why'd you cut your hair? Because you don't
it's
respect
a lot of work,
You don't
man.
respect the game.
It's
that's
a
what it
lot
is.
of
He
work.
respects the game. He
I
knows
don't
how much
think
work
so.
goes into this.
It's a lot of work. That's why I had,
No,
and
thank
now
you.
it's
Well,
easy. You just
this guy.
shower and you're
Yeah,
out.
exactly. I totally
I
understand.
mean, it is easy. I used to do that too, but I just
Yeah.
thought I'd
You used
change
to have
things
short
up.
hair.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, I used to 0.5 it and skin fade all the way down. I used to be bald.
I've
Really?
known you
Yeah.
for a while and I've never seen you.
Yeah.
with it.
He's a liar.
He's doing it
If
for
you guys
he's
think
doing
he's
it
a
for
liar,
the camera.
please.
I'll get some photos for Joad. Don't worry.
No, so you gotta respect that. You gotta
What, in
respect
high
the
school
long
you
hair.
had short hair?
High school and a little bit after high school. I want to say college, but like I never actually completed college.
When
so-
you were in the car dealership,
was
did
like-
you have short hair?
sometimes, yeah.
Okay, you
I went
didn't
through
grow
some
that
stints.
for the dealership?
Not this long. I've never had it this long.
Because it's like, it doesn't have the sleaziness.
If you notice, this is a short hair versus long hair. right?
Yeah, exactly.
This
Good
too.
looking.
This is long
Versus-
Well,
Versus
long in
average,
comparison.
eh?
Long in comparison. So.
like
See how he
10
did?
here.
That's
yeah,
okay.
there you go.
And then there's like, five,
Scratching
7.
5. Eh?
Yeah. Scratching.
All right. I had this is.
Well, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Before
perhaps-
before
yeah.
we get into like super details
Yeah.
and things like that, how did you become immigration
Immigration
consultant?
consultant.
Like
Oh.
what brought you into it? How long have you been doing it? Things like that.
It's funny because
When you were a kid, you're like, I want to be an immigration consultant.
no, not but listen. No, I went through the system. I'm a former international student. Like international students nowadays, we're being told a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I was a former international student that went through the system, and I thought that it was I wanted to get my license and kind of help people. So one of the requirements to become an immigration consultant was to, back in the day, now it has been repealed, but before it was to be a Canadian permanent resident, and I was not one. So I was like, I put it on hold. Then when I became a permanent resident in 2015,
Yeah.
and I was actually working at the car dealership,
Oh, interesting.
and then I started studying to get my license and finish my
Oh, so
stuff.
it's a license and everything. Okay.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
have to have it's a very rigorous.
I feel like it's probably
profession
pretty
now.
similar to a lawyer, no? 'Cause you gotta
Well,
go
we
through
can
all
we can
these-
practice. A lawyer can practice. We're not the same thing. A lawyer can
Okay.
practice on any type of law that they want.
Mhm.
An immigration consultant can only practice on immigration law.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
We cannot go to federal court. Now you have to get a special type of license if you want to represent somebody in the IRB, which is the immigration court kind of stuff. It's a tribunal, you know, in Canada. Correct. Yeah. Or if you're, you know, if you have a client that, you know, is getting deported, then you'll have to go to the IRB, and you can, you know, negotiate with
It's the Immigration Refugee Board, right? IRB.
The IRB,
Yeah.
that's the Immigration Refugee Board. Correct. Yeah. And then
Yeah, I know. My wife works in the government, so I've learned a little bit of acronyms here and there.
there you go. Yes.
He really just Googled it right before coming here. He's like, things to know about immigration.
Yeah, so you need a special license to be able to practice that. But you need to have your immigration consultancy license to be able to.
I see.
So
And how long is that process to become?
To become an immigration consultant? It's probably you have to have currently the process that you have to have an undergraduate, then you have to go to Queen's University.
Oh, interesting.
And do a 2-year immigration law diploma. Once you get that, then you have to attempt an entry to practice exam, and if you pass the exam,
my God,
then you are an immigration consultant.
Yeah, this is pretty rigorous.
Sorry to do that, then be a realtor.
So
Yeah, they should make
It should be harder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
real estate should be like a 2-year course.
Yeah.
At
and
Algonquin or
you have
something
to
like
have an undergraduate 4 years
Yeah.
before that. So
Well,
it's
some
actually,
of us
it's,
do.
Yeah, it's good that you. Yeah. But it's good that you do that.
No.
What happened?
You see how he postures?
My
That's
house
crazy.
is bigger than his.
Sorry, which house?
Oh, you mean which one of mine? I think both of them are.
You want to play tennis right now? He flexes.
I had a shitty realtor sell me that house. So.
Back
so
to
yeah,
it.
so
Yeah, so bachelor's degree is required.
Good. So anyway,
Before you were rudely interrupted.
Yeah, I know. When they were talking about whose house is bigger.
Yeah. Tell you about something.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's good that it's like that because before it was not governed properly. You know, the profession, right? And we've seen, you know, scams across over the years. So now that it's a lot more rigorous, I guess, and the parliament actually passed a law to create a college of immigration consultants.
I see.
So now
at the federal level.
Yes. So
and Queens is one of the only universities that
provides
that?
in the eastern Canada, yes, and there's one in BC, but I don't remember what the
so we usually have these conversations, and we think that mortgage brokers and realtors right now there's no I think it's high school diploma required, and then after that it's just you take the required courses at your own leisure. Usually you have about a year and a half or so, but we think that it should be way more courses, and you know, the level of entry, because of the amount of advice that you provide to a client, I think you should have some sort of more stringent rules and regulations. We do have ongoing courses that we have to take, but I think all this stuff adds to the quality of the professional.
Correct. Yeah, and I think that's what the government, you know.
And you guys get paid by the applicant or by the government?
No, by the applicant. By the applicant.
Okay,
yeah.
nice.
That's the government, you know, usually pays, but when for lawyers, right? When you're in the
IRB.
Yeah, no, in the
when you're going through the process, they charge you like per hour kind of thing.
What's it called? When you are a lawyer and work in
practice, you mean?
law clinic.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
and then if you go to a law clinic, then they'll
pay.
The lawyers that are there are usually, you know, with the government. So, but in my case, immigration consultants were a private practice.
Private.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good for you.
Yeah.
And how long you been in the business?
So essentially I finished my studies in 2017. Had another job, so I was more focused on that, and I did not practice. And I attempted my exam in 2019.
Yeah,
passed it and got my license, I think 2020. And I did not I did not practice until 2021. That's when I opened my firm, and then rest is history.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. What kind of services do they come to you, like, in specific? Like,
depends, right? I focus a lot on economic immigration. Economic immigration is international students transitioning to permanent residents, and anybody who's here on a temporary basis, international student, foreign temporary worker, that
Businesses.
businesses,
Yeah.
I help a lot of businesses also that trying to get workers, right?
Exactly, from abroad,
From
because we have the
abroad.
temporary foreign
Correct.
worker programs. Yeah.
Correct. Yes. So
A lot of your clientele then is already here. They're just trying to transition into
permanent
a more
residency.
permanent.
Correct.
So
yes.
is that when the minister of immigration says temporary immigrants, that those people would fall under that?
Yes.
If they're
yes.
here,
If they're here, exactly.
tour?
Anybody. So there's two ways to enter Canada, right? There you can enter as a permanent resident or as a temporary resident, right?
or as a tourist.
Yes, but a tourist
Or a spy.
it falls under a temporary resident.
Yeah, and
Actually,
where
the visitor people call it a visitor visa, but its legal name is like temporary resident visa.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
interesting.
TRV. It's a temporary resident visa. So
I know.
That's crazy.
what's that?
He tried to correct you on
No,
your own
It's,
profession.
it's more of a question. Or tourist. And he goes,
Yeah.
no, actually, and then you correct.
Yeah.
This is how a conversation occurs. That's how a conversation occurs.
Sorry, Omar. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
All right.
My apologies.
These super good-looking, educated folks on this side are having a conversation.
So anyways, what I was telling about the temporary
professor,
residence.
Yo.
Uh,
He's just talking shit. I can't leave him there.
Jacob, can we shut off his mic from there?
Tell him. Yeah.
So So anyways, temporary resident or a permanent resident, right? And temporary resident, historically, the government has controlled the number of permanent residents. In the country, and those and they use the immigration levels to determine those numbers, which is what you see, like 500,000 people are going to be accepted next year.
Yeah.
Those are permanent residents
Okay.
Only.
Yes.
So then temporary is on top of that.
Yes, temporary resident is anybody who enters Canada and has a expiration date for their status in Canada.
So, but why does that matter then in the headlines? Like, if we're just accepting, like, to be clear, those that are accepted for permanent residency, are they the ones that are on the path to citizenship?
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
you come to Canada. Let's say in my case,
we're
right?
landed immigrants.
Exactly. So in my case, I was a former international student, and I was a temporary resident.
Yeah.
Then you become a permanent resident, and you have to live in the country for
3 or 4 years, or
2 or 3 years, depends on your status, on your previous status, and then you become a Canadian citizen. Then you become eligible to become a Canadian citizen.
I see.
And recently, so the regulations, the permanent resident number are regulated, right? The temporary resident, historically, it's a number that has not been regulated by the government. So
They're not keeping track.
they're not exactly.
It's not like a mandate.
It's not like a mandated number.
So
right?
if a company applies
to bring 20,
people?
30, 40, yes, no problem.
Oh.
So they can bring them in as temporary residents.
Yes,
But technically, they have an expiration date on how long they can stay.
they can stay in the country.
and then they have to go
wondering
back.
Exactly.
But so let's say what happens in the case that they come, who's making sure that they go back?
Well,
No,
it's
they could get
usually
deported.
usually yes. Some
I know,
people.
but I'm asking a question. I want a more in-depth
This is
answer
how
from an
conversation
expert.
goes.
This is how conversation.
That's not a conversation. You're just asking questions.
Exactly, just to start up a conversation.
I feel like you're on a blind date. Just-
I'd be
I'll
so
let
lucky
you-
to be on a blind date with Frankie.
Yeah.
So so what I was telling who it's on the best interest of an individual to respect the immigration law. So they will leave usually when some people overstay, and once you overstay, right, then you're essentially on breach of the Immigration Act, and
But you don't get deported straight away, right?
you
there's
don't
some
get
sort of
deported
gray
straight
area.
away, but anything
clock is
that
ticking.
you do, it's very, very, very hard to be in Canada without status.
Really?
It's not like in the United States, right? Like there's there's
Underground.
a formal economy and
Yeah.
and an informal economy, right? And the informal economy could argue that it's bigger than the formal
Yeah.
economy. But the in Canada, it's we don't have that problem to that level.
I see. So basically, to recap, the permanent residents are mandated by
Are regulated.
regulated on a regular basis. Like so, and it's announced in the whole works.
Correct. Yes.
Temporary resident, there's no necessarily cap on it.
There's
so
no cap.
so when
Exactly.
Trudeau's coming out and says, "Oh no, our temporary resident, we have way too many people in the
Correct.
country,"
Yeah.
it's purely because the process has allowed that many people to show up.
Yes. So it's that's where it gets intricate, because right now we do have a lot of temporary residents,
Yeah.
right?
Historically, higher than
Historically, more than normal. Yeah.
Okay.
Before we had before pre-pandemic, we had, I think it was like 2 or 3% of the population were temporary residents. Right?
Yeah.
Right now, we're almost at 7% of the population is. So in a couple of years,
7% of the population is temporary.
Temporary. Which, that's 7%. 7% of any
Pretty
industry.
drastic,
It's a pretty big economic.
So who sustains these people as temporary residents? Who's
Temporary, because foreign workers
Yeah.
are there. Yeah, if you're here, a person who works in the farm picking the tomatoes,
Just for like 3-4
that's
months.
a temporary worker.
Okay.
That's under for 3 or 4 months. International
there's
student.
a specific program for that.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
they don't qualify for like government assistance in any way or anything
No,
like that.
no.
Okay.
No. A temporary resident, like you're coming here to either work or study in Canada, right?
So the study permits are under temporary.
Under
yeah, makes
temporary
sense.
resident, correct?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
and the work permits and visitors visas are under temporary resident as well. And
So our tourism or whatnot could be up as a result of all this.
exactly. Yeah, but tourism, yes, you want it. That's the one number that you want it to be up all the time, right? Because that's.
But we don't know the difference between that. Like that 7%, we don't know that many people are tourists.
No, we don't know that. But I'm not aware if they keep how many tourists there are right now at the moment. But that 7% is mostly people who are residing in Canada right now, and they have a valid permit to reside in Canada, right?
I see.
And so Canada, obviously, we cannot support such a big growth in the population.
So when they say we've allowed 1.2, or our population has grown by 1.2.
By 1.2, it's mostly
million.
Last year.
Just for the public, it's 1.2 million growth in Canada in 2023.
In 2023, yes.
Yeah.
And that was
Just
temporary
permanent.
resident.
Oh, just
Okay,
temporary
so we
resident.
count the temporary residents part of our population?
Yes.
That's weird, isn't it?
Well, like it's a worker who is here on a work permit for 3 years,
Oh,
right?
yeah. So
Should it
people
be counted
reside.
as part of the population or not? Yes, we should, because it's still in 20.
Yeah, because they're
But we
living
don't
here.
count-
they're
working
living here in Canada and they're working. They're paying
But it
taxes,
must-
but it's
they're
not
paying,
part of the immigration.
It's not
numbers.
part of the immigration levels.
Yeah,
I
but they
see.
must
Correct.
know then how many tourists versus how many. Like
Yes,
as that
they probably
temporary-
know. I don't have the
Yeah.
I don't have the
Yeah, we
Stats
don't-
Canada. No, I
okay.
just don't have that
Yeah,
information.
yeah.
I don't keep track of
You
that.
don't, yeah. that's-
I feel like that's
But-
a fluctuating number.
Yeah, that's a
Because
fluctuating
they're
number.
here on shorter terms.
Correct.
right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're here usually
within a
6
given
months.
month,
3-4
like for you
months.
to collect the data, let's
Correct.
say you're doing it on a monthly basis,
Yeah.
like it would have changed in smaller time frames.
Correct. Yeah. So what
and
right
it'd be an
now?
average number
Yeah,
too
exactly.
throughout the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if like some guy's here for 3 months of the winter and the other guy's here for 3 months of
Or even
summer.
a
In the
week.
summer, correct?
Yeah, they might just average out. On
Yeah.
average, we have this many people
Yeah.
in Canada.
A question about the immigration number. Are
Yeah.
the people that are here on temporary that then turn into permanent residents, does that count as that number? Or is
Yeah,
it just
as a-
immigrants
no.
that come from outside?
No, that's another misconception that people have.
Wait, okay. Can you
70
clarify his question?
yeah.
I'm not sure. I
Yeah.
understood.
So what
I didn't word it
what he's
smart
asking
enough.
is the people who transition from temporary resident
Yeah,
to permanent
Permanent.
residency,
yeah.
if those people are considered under the immigration level, around the 450.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's another misconception. That I think it's for next year is 470,000 around there.
0.2.
Yeah. So the around 70% of 400 of that number are people already in Canada.
Okay, so they're
Who
not
are-
new people into the country.
Into the
I
country.
see.
We're just
So
making them permanent.
the population might not change
Might
by
not
that.
change.
I see what
Correct.
you're saying.
Correct.
Okay.
The population will not change,
Mhm.
right? So you have, let's say if you had a million temporary, just to
Yeah. Clean numbers.
clean numbers,
Yeah.
right? A million permanent residents, right? And you're gonna make 400,000 or 500,000, half of them, you're gonna make them temporary permanent residents. Then the population is not gonna increase to 1.5. No, there's still a million people, right? Just half of them have a different status now.
Yeah. It's just,
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
And that's how the
So let's say, how do I remove status from Rabieh, for instance? Is that possible?
No,
Was,
I was
were you
born
born
here.
here? Yeah,
I was born
exactly.
here.
Like, come on, it's easier to remove. Yeah.
You walked
you
right
actually-
out.
hold on, yeah.
Look me up already.
Get his ass.
Let me go to
ICE is
court.
on the way.
Citizenship.
ICE is on the way.
Yeah. That we can't do
Yeah.
anything. You, on the other hand, let me.
Work hard.
You're gonna have to give him a signing fee before
Yeah.
before he gives you any advice.
I want to be removed. Government's looking into it. Now. They're like, what the fuck is he actually?
Yeah, but it's because you were talking shit about them in previous
yeah.
episodes.
Yeah,
they're
Now
already
we're
looking
just
into you.
adding ammo.
Just like-
They actually sent Frankie as an immigration spy to come get some details on you so we can
Yeah,
figure
let's
out
Go
where you
talk to him.
Get his
Make you feel
ass.
comfortable, and then
Get us all the info.
you can come in.
I was like, wait, what are you talking to? That was good.
Oh, that was so good. That was clean.
There's like a red dot.
Oh shit.
That's scary.
Okay.
That's
Let's
scary.
keep
I don't
it
like
moving.
people
Let's
from
keep it
doing
moving.
that. Messing with us. All right, this is really good info. I
Yeah.
really appreciate.
Yeah.
So, how does this all relate to Doug Ford and the immigration minister and Trudeau all saying we have too many temporary
Correct, temporary residents.
residents,
Yeah.
and then but the colleges have a certain allocation of funds for number of seats.
Yeah,
something
that's
like
a
that.
that's a complex issue, and I'll
We'll
try
dumb
to.
it down for Rabieh, though, please.
Yeah, I'll kind of explain it.
I'm not even saying much today. I'm being quiet and trying to listen.
So
'Cause it's an interesting
so
topic, and I'm learning a lot. But he just wants to shit on me.
Literally.
so the majority of temporary residents in the country right now are international students,
Okay.
right? Why? I think that's what your question is. Like, how does why
How are they deciding what
Exactly.
ratio of temporary need to be
So,
students versus workers?
So essentially, like, how do we get here, right? That's the like.
And how does it
Easy-
impact the
easy-
funding? And,
Yeah. So easy question. Easy, like, just to simplify the
answer.
The answer. Underfunding of education for Canadians, right? So let's say if you are a university, right, and you say,
Yeah.
you know what, I need $100 to be able to operate next year, right? You go to the province. The province says, okay, you need $100. We're finding efficiencies, because we want to balance budget or we want to, improve
it doesn't
whatever.
balance itself.
So we'll, so
It does.
it does.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. So they said we can't give you 100, but we'll give you 80, and
Yeah.
now you find the other 20. So then that's when universities say, okay, well, I need 100. If there's no way that I can,
You can't
and
operate.
exactly. And
Yeah.
in the case of Ontario, the premier said, told university, you can't increase the tuition on Canadian permanent residents or Canadian citizens or Canadian students,
So
right?
I say, okay.
But you're still short by $20.
Yeah.
So what do they do? University, they say, well, you know what? Let me find international students, right? Because I'm short $20. If I get 10 of them that pay $2,
Yeah.
then I make the $20,
Yeah.
right? Universities did that, and then they were like, "Oh,
This is pretty good. Okay,
hold on a
increase
second.
$5.
Like, let me just get an extra $5 just in case, right? Or
Yeah.
an extra $10. So then instead of getting 10 students, they get 20. So the next year, you go to the province, right, and you tell them, hey, I need $100 to operate next year. Province looks at your balance sheet and says,
Yeah.
well, I gave you 80 last year,
And you came out on top.
and you came on top, and you had 120.
Yeah.
You know what? and you have an extra 40 now. So you know what? I'm actually gonna give you 60 nowadays.
Yeah.
You understand what I
So
mean?
then the problem repeats itself.
So
and-
now,
And so now more and more immigration is coming in for.
so now more interest. So
students.
now
But that means
universities-
Canadian students don't have spots at the university and colleges.
yeah, that's by you underfunding education.
Yeah.
Then that's what eventually happens. So then they realize that it's such a good. People want to come to Canada, right? And the government offers a path historically for international students to acquire permanent residency and citizenship, with many countries.
Plus now they're educated, they have Canadian
correct,
experience.
which is
Perfect.
schools
Yeah,
are
they're
making
gonna
money.
work.
Yeah.
That's exactly. So it has been a win-win for everybody,
Yeah.
right?
Except Canadian students if they're missing out on seats.
because before up to the pandemic, international students were seen as a plus to, and they're still a plus, right? But what I said, at the beginning of the year, I said in 2024, the sentiment from Canadians towards immigration is changing, right? And we have seen, we're 4 months into the year, and everybody says stop it.
Yeah, but is that ill-founded? Is that actually on
No,
any
it's not
good-
ill-founded.
Okay.
It actually,
Like,
makes
makes
we
sense.
have, we do
growing-
have we are growing way too fast. We
We
grew
are.
the population too fast, and we need to scale back a little bit, and which is what the government is doing.
Yeah, because I'm assuming that when immigration is increasing, nobody's calling up Health Canada and says, hey, by the way, we have more people coming into the country. You should get more doctors. And nobody's calling up defense or roads or whatever it is and saying, oh, we're having more people.
Correct.
We need better
I used to work.
infrastructure.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
And that's
so
that's
is-
that's
is-
that's another thing, right? Because so just to go back to close the international student aspect, right? Once that happens and universities realize we can, sure, if we get underfunded, we can still make the money up. Then the university, it's a win for the university. They look at more international students. The provincial government says, okay, I'm going to underfund them even more. So then you create a perfect mess. So temporary residents, usually that demand of them comes from the provinces, not from the federal government. The federal government gives you a stamp. So when you're an
You just
international
go through the
student,
process.
when you're an international student, you go to the federal government, you said, hey, I want the visa to come to Canada. The federal government tells you why. And they're like, well, because,
I got
this
accepted to the school.
university says that they need me. And so the federal government says, okay, they give them a visa to come to Canada because the university
Yeah.
asked for it.
So what do they do to check? Because I remember hearing a couple months back a story about a lot of students had come here on student visas that were false and they weren't actually students. I don't know if you're familiar with that situation.
there's a
So
scandal.
essentially the letter. So when they went to the federal government, they said, oh, this college or this university wants us here.
Yeah.
That letter was fake.
And so they don't do any
So
checks
then-
to
so
confirm with the universities.
They did historically.
Yeah.
The problem is that the volume
Yeah.
Yeah, it
of
was
them
so
was
high.
so high
Yeah.
that they started,
Just allowing it.
Cutting
exactly.
corners.
Say like
Yeah.
cutting corners just to
I'll
process.
check. I'll
to
check.
Be, to
Yeah,
be
go,
able
go,
to be
go.
able to process faster, right? And especially when the pandemic hit.
I wish the landlord tenant board did that.
That's it. Well,
But we even call
but-
universities to check that
Yeah.
that's a legit thing.
Yeah.
We look for proof of enrollment.
Yeah, 100%.
Show me that
Correct.
you paid all this stuff for tenancies.
Yeah.
We do that.
yeah, exactly. So even during the pandemic, everything stopped, right? The government stopped. So government
Backlog.
stopped. Universities still continue accepting students.
Yeah.
So that
There's
created
a
a
huge
huge backlog of application. So then they had to come with public policies and say, you know what, we have to just approve them,
Holy crap.
right? And then
The
this
floodgates open.
Oh, yeah.
correct. So then this and then that and then that's where we're like, we grew, which is too many, right?
Yeah.
And not too many that we don't want them here. Too many because the country literally cannot support
I see.
that. So we have to be more strategic now with the immigration policy, which the government is doing, and the federal government is doing, and now provinces have to be on board now and everything because the Canadians we wanted to be
Yeah.
more.
Well, I feel like part of the solution is like
capping the amount of international students.
Yes,
no?
and that's what
and
that's
it's
what
not
the
that
cap.
simple.
But
Yeah,
it's like
but that-
temporary
that's what that-
residents in general, right? Not just
Yeah,
international
correct.
students, because they're not really capping based on what you're saying.
Correct.
As a company, I could say I need X amount of workers.
Correct.
Bring them in. I guess
And
as long
there
as my
is-
business.
but
need
if you're like there for temporary workers, there is a cap already,
Okay.
right?
Like a recent cap.
No, there has been a cap in place for a while.
So really,
now.
the one
For-
that's growing crazy out of control is the student
it's
one.
the student one that I was working there. But small business, if you're a small business
Yeah.
and you say, I need a worker, you have to go through a process called the LMA, which is a labor market impact assessment, which that process you have to prove that one, there is a need for that temporary worker in your business. Then you have to prove also that the depending on your industry, that 80% of the workforce already working in your business are Canadian citizens, permanent residents,
I see.
right? And then you have to prove also that there is no Canadian available across Canada
Oh my god.
To do
willing
that
to
job.
How would you
relocate.
prove it?
You have to do an advertising campaign
Yeah.
across the country,
Okay.
right?
And we show
and if
the-
you get
and-
no hits,
and you
or
get no hits
no qualified
or no
hits.
qualified hits, then
Yeah.
you say, you know what, I looked, but there was no. But the problem is, a farm looking for somebody to.
Yeah.
Is somebody from BC gonna relocate to come
No,
and work on the farm to
that's why
pick?
it doesn't make sense.
You
But
understand
if
what
it
I
was
mean?
a tech
So
employee,
that's
it would actually work.
but depend. There's different. There's also there's different programs depending on what type of job the person is going to be doing, right?
yeah.
There are work permits can be issued based on Canada's best interest,
Yeah. of
right?
course.
And so STEM occupation.
So, but like, I thought universities and colleges have grown their programs, have grown their residencies to allow for more students to
for
come.
more international students, yeah.
But then now, if they're cutting it off or they're saying
That's
they're
where
going back to a very small amount,
provinces have to put more money on it.
so
right?
they have to cash out.
Yeah, province, or we have to increase the tuition on Canadians,
But the
right?
tuition
But we
on
don't want to do that.
Yeah, but tuition on Canadians paid 1/3 by the candidate,
Correct.
the student, 1/3 by the province, 1/3 by Canada.
Correct.
So every international student doesn't get those subsidies.
They have to pay it.
So it's
all
actually
themselves
cheaper for Canada as a whole.
to
Have
have
an
an
To have an
student.
international
Of
student,
course,
yeah.
yeah. It's a money game, right?
Yeah.
And then that's when the minister came and said there are bad actors, because what had started happening is that then they started creating this little colleges, right? And that's why you see strip mall colleges or strip mall universities, they call it, right? Because anybody started creating their own college. Now I own a college. It's a private college, and they bring international students, right?
But that's a private.
That's a private college. So a private college doesn't have benefits to their students, right? So in my case, I started in a public college, right? And then I was able to because I started in a public college, I got a work permit and then eventually a permanent residency and citizenship.
Yeah.
If you start in a private college, you don't have those benefits.
You don't have a path to.
You don't have a
permanent
path to
residency.
citizen. Yes. So
What?
what happened? Yeah.
So you're just
So,
coming in for the
To
benefits
study,
of that private college,
yeah, and then you're
out.
go exactly. But so what
while
started
they're here-
happening? Yeah. So
Yeah.
what started happening is that they created
This is
something
getting juicy, guys.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So they created something called the private-public partnership.
Oh.
So a private college buys the curriculum from a public college. So it says, I'm a private college, but my curriculum is a public college curriculum.
I see.
So then that college becomes eligible to give the benefits of a work permit and a path to residency to their students.
And
Just
the
based
public
on the
and
curriculum.
Based on the curriculum. So then that's why start seeing all these little colleges pop out of nowhere, especially in Toronto,
Yeah.
and people just come in,
Okay,
to
so-
those private colleges.
Since this is Broadcast Millionaires, how are we starting a college?
Yeah, exactly, right?
Like, that sounds pretty good.
Bad news. Hold on.
Well, you are a
Wait, bad
professor.
news.
Yeah,
You are
that-
a professor.
yeah.
You're one
I'm a
step closer.
qualified-
Every subject.
You're
Yeah.
qualified. Weren't you talking about real estate being like, getting more license?
Yeah.
I feel that then you have an idea. No?
See, there
I'm
we go.
joking.
Yeah, we should create a
A
university.
real
There
estate
you
college.
go.
Yeah, real estate.
You're just
The
gonna
top-
take it from Humber.
Yeah, I'm gonna compete with the Gov.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bet.
I'm definitely getting a bullseye.
Yeah.
But so what the federal government, the recent announcements were said no more private-public partnerships. So private colleges are not able, to offer benefits even if they buy the curriculum.
But what if the ones they already bought the curriculum, or they have to
You're out
renew
of
that
luck.
every year?
You're out of luck.
Like they're not grandfathered in.
No.
Shit.
So basically, all these people just opened colleges to make all this money and got screwed.
And
because
got
they changed their
exactly.
mind.
Well, I mean, I don't know how
Because
screwed they
and
got.
that's
They
not
probably made a
even-
shit
and
ton of
that's
money in the
And
process.
that's not even thing. The government came, the minister, the immigration came and said,
Canada, yeah.
this change for private colleges is going to happen as of September 1st.
The one coming up?
Yes,
Okay.
this September 1st. So then private colleges, they said, well, all the students that were starting on September 1st are now starting on May 1st.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
wow.
Give me the loot. Give me the loot.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one
So
more
then-
year.
So they started earlier. So then the minister came, and that's what we call it March Madness. What happened here, and immigration. That's why you see all these announcements. So the minister said, okay, the change is now from March 19th.
Oh my god.
You understand what I mean? So
Yeah.
then like all these international students now and private colleges are now like in a very bad place.
And then we have a massive influx of immigrants coming in and needing housing.
But they're not immigrants. They're
sorry, not
temporary
immigrants, they're
residents now.
temporary
Come on.
residents. Sorry.
You can
Sorry,
only
you're right,
that's
you're
that's
right.
He's
another
already
thing.
clarified,
Yeah.
my boy.
That's another thing. You can only become an immigrant once you gain permanent residence. You understand? Then you're considered an immigrant.
Yeah.
So if you are not, if you do not have permanent residency, you're still not considered an immigrant. You're considered, if you don't have, you're a temporary resident, you're an international student, you're a foreign worker, you understand?
So when we came to Canada, we were called landed immigrants.
Because
What
you
does that
came
mean?
as a permanent resident.
So we came
So
straight
yeah.
as- okay.
How did you can I ask?
Yeah.
How did you came to Canada?
By a plane.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Olympic Airlines.
yeah. So
They don't have a very good track record of
You
landing.
see how worried he was to ask him that question?
so when you
He's like,
yeah.
Okay.
So when
On
you
TV.
came to Canada, if you came with permanent resident, then you became a permanent resident as soon as when you landed,
Yeah.
and then the government,
Yeah, that's
then
what they
an
call it.
officer,
And that was like 3-4 years or something. Then we became citizens.
citizen, exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you came as a permanent resident.
Yeah.
So you enter as a I enter as a temporary resident in the country, and then
see.
I became what you.
Yeah,
became
then you
eventually.
applied. Okay.
You understand what I mean? Yeah.
I see.
You said 70% of permanent residents are already landed,
No, temporary residents.
or are temporary that become
Yeah.
permanent.
Yeah.
So
That includes economic class, provincial nomination.
So
things
what's
like
the what is that predetermined, like by the government saying,
Yeah,
okay,
on-
70% of them we're just going to pick from people that
correct
are
that
already
already here. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
that's
then-
that's what I focus on. That's what economic
Yeah.
immigration
It's
is.
to
Okay.
prove
That's
their
called
case today.
that's what economic immigration is. People that are already here that are already helping the country, then they qualify for.
But
permanent
could they have started the process for permanent residence prior to being a temporary?
residence. You could, yes, you could, but
I think that looks bad.
But no, it doesn't look bad. Actually, it was harder historically.
Okay.
It was harder before because a person who usually Canada prefers a person who came to Canada, study in Canada in a college year, work here, pay taxes, knows the language. Then why are we gonna let that person go?
I see.
They're here already. You understand? So
Basically, it's a trial period.
correct.
It's a bit of trial, right?
Yeah,
So why
exactly.
you have to
We're
have,
gonna-
you have to have a lot of money, I guess, back home for them to consider you to come with PR.
Thank you.
Right off the bat.
Thank you.
'Cause now
Or
you're bringing
a lot
something
of home.
about-
That means that you have to have a lot of education.
Yeah.
Your English has to be
You have to bring something
great.
to the
You have-
table if they're gonna bring you
Correct.
to a different
So,
country. essentially,
yeah.
to
Yeah,
do
I think when we came, like my parents were educated in
Yeah.
various fields, multilingual.
Yeah.
We were like in multilingual as well, so I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that kind of helped.
So that have yeah.
Plus, we're super good looking.
He's improving the
There you
gene
go.
pool, actually.
There you go.
That's what
That's
it
it.
was.
That's
I'm
what it
adding to the
Yeah.
equation.
Depends who you're talking to, but sure.
Yeah, no.
So
I
not
agree.
only helping the economy, but
I was just
helping
trying
the
to
look,
boost him some.
The look, yeah,
the look
yeah.
industry.
No,
Eh?
I was
himself
supposed to be
enough.
a model.
Yeah.
Did you guys did I ever tell you that I was supposed to be a
Yeah, but you
model?
couldn't turn left.
Yeah, but you did it.
Yeah.
I heard that was your issue. You couldn't turn left.
Yeah.
Well, Mugatu and Zoolander. You look
He's
like
Hansel.
Mugatu.
yeah.
Who's Hansel? The evil guy?
No, Hansel and Zoolander's arch nemesis.
What's his face with the broken nose?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Hansel.
You don't
Okay.
know Zoolander? You have not watched it yet?
I have, but I don't remember any of the characters.
Because you were like 5 at
Yeah,
the time when it
sure.
came out.
Probably was.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's probably quite
Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah.
Were you
So-
born here?
No.
Oh, okay.
Also immigrant.
Oh, no.
Also an immigrant. There you
So
go.
you came in
that's,
with your temporary, with your permanent residence?
I actually have
already?
no idea because I
Okay.
was like 5 years old.
you
so,
probably
like-
came with permanent
Well,
residency.
the thing is,
We don't know that for
it
we don't know
later-
that for sure.
It was later a problem because when I went to get my license at 16,
yeah.
my parents had lost all my papers and stuff. So I couldn't
Mhm.
prove I was
They
actually
lost all his
Canadian.
papers and stuff.
I couldn't prove
So
it.
you had to go
Turn
to
off his mic. Turn off his mic. He should
No,
not
no,
be
so
saying
then-
it publicly.
You got no papers.
No, I'm good now. But we could have used your services when I was 16
Yeah, you
because we basically, it took us 2 years before we could get enough paperwork to prove that.
You had to get your record of your immigration record.
Yeah, and it was absolute headache. I
It's a
remember.
headache. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Hopefully,
a very
hopefully, you didn't have to do
immigration.
his,
You know,
driving record because
Yeah, now they regret it.
usually navigating government bureaucracy is usually headache.
yeah, a little bit.
Like to the point where my parents didn't even do it. They just we I remember we went to, they were by Prince of Wales and
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Isn't that the passport office?
like
Meadowlands,
where Hogsback is.
yeah, Meadowlands.
Yeah. No. Yeah. General area. But yeah, I remember we had to go there and sign a bunch of papers and prove I was who I was. And
Yeah.
all this,
It's
all this
it's yeah,
Yeah.
it's a headache.
But I
When
did get my
So
license.
what's your real name then?
shit. Fucking bad.
Come in.
Wrong one.
It's the other one now.
Never mind.
I'm the only good one here.
Hey,
Yeah, you're the only one.
don't
I'm a
worry about the
natural
guy with the
citizen.
white hair. It's good. It's good. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, so then, so are we worried as a nation? Like, because I think there's a lot of negativity behind this
There
immigration.
is a negativity. So temporary residents have not been
You don't have
regulated.
to yell at me.
Sorry, brother. Temporary.
He's just passionate about what he's
Yeah,
talking
I just-
about. Right?
Yeah.
Smack my chair. You're a temporary resident.
That's you when you talk about real estate in the government.
I get angry. Yeah.
Do you need this house or no?
You're gonna fucking buy it.
So anyway, yeah. So
Temporary
temporary residents have not been regulated. They need to be regulated. I agree with the changes to temporary residents.
Okay,
So that
it's good to know.
exactly, so that we can lower the number from 7% to, they want to keep it to 5% for the next couple of years, which makes sense because then it'll help. You lower it by 2%, yes, and you put in a cap on international students. You know, our institutions have to, education.
It's a cap. It's not a deletion of
It's
it.
not a deletion. It's just a cap
Okay.
saying that the
Like, come the fuck
education.
down.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like moving forward, we're gonna ease it up. Well,
Yes.
whatever's here is here, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then moving forward, we got to
Instead
take
of
it easy.
whatever is here, it's whoever.
Yeah.
Well, no, I say whatever because they fall under a bunch of different categories.
It's also
different kinds
2024.
of-
Yeah. So that needs to be that needs to be regulated. It's good that it's being done.
Yeah.
But the permanent residents, what we were talking about, the number that is regulated, we need to maintain those levels to what.
So
we
that's not
currently
going to
are.
be lowered or
I-
shouldn't be lowered.
And I think that it shouldn't be lower because we have an issue that we cannot grow the economy, the population that fast,
Correct.
but we need to grow it
Correct.
because
We're not
have,
producing babies.
we're not. So we either have two ways to be able to remain the country that we are.
Yeah.
We either have to have more kids.
Okay, fine. I'll do it.
There you go. Or
Omar
we
is
need
no longer real.
Yeah.
He is now a breeder.
to- or we need to pay more tax. Those are the two
No,
options.
no.
Or
We'll
we
just
need
leave
to
it. That's the first option.
Omar, get to work.
No, you're young, man. Let's go.
We already pay
Do
enough
it.
taxes, man. We don't need to pay any more
Yeah,
taxes.
there you go.
I've
So
done
then
my
we
share.
need immigration.
Yeah.
We need to grow our population somehow.
Yeah.
Right? Because the big issue that why the government is worried, and it's rightfully so, by 2030,
Yeah.
right, in what 4 or 6 years
6
from
years.
now,
Yeah.
the first cohort of baby boomers will become 85 years old. Right? So right now, baby boomers, which makes a big component, up until the last election, they were the biggest voting bloc
I see.
in Canada, right? they are going to become 85. When the person becomes 85, then the
Social services.
social services, the demand on the healthcare system, that everything will be, and if we're not able to
That's the first cohort of the baby boomers.
of the baby boomers, yeah. And if we're not able to replace those people, by younger
So
people,
late
with
40s,
working
early
economy,
50s.
then
like
and
people
we
that are
only
working
we only
in-
have 6 years to do that.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
For it, and that's
So if anything,
And then so
they
every year
can-
after that, bro, like it's coming down.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
It's
So all
like-
you're
It's
saying
like-
is we should
so-
leave here within the next
so
6
you know
no,
what?
but
Yeah.
so this whole thing is about how we have a very, very fast aging demographic.
Correct.
And a lot of people are thinking that that's just conspiracy thinking,
No,
but it
it's
really
not.
is this.
It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The average life expectancy in Canada hovers around the 86, I
Correct.
believe, 86 or 87. And so if you have a significant portion of people that is moving up to that category in the
Correct.
next 10 years,
You're
well,
leaving a
Next
hole.
10 years.
You're leaving a
Next
hole in the
6.
population.
Huge
Next
population.
next 6, not 10.
next 6, the first
We're
cohort,
close,
but then
yeah.
the year after that, there's about 10 years
So
worth of-
wouldn't it make sense to bring in more permanent residents?
but then we
Mhm.
can't sustain.
we sustain them because right now we
Okay,
allowed
so
all these
20,
people.
so
and we're-
2030, they're turning it up max volume.
Well, yes. Well, right now
if they maintain gradually,
it's
then
not.
they won't.
It's not about just turning it off. It's about making sure that as you're bringing people in, you are strengthening the current infrastructure that you have, for social services, for healthcare, for everything, and that we are able, and for housing, and that we're able to support that amount of people coming into the
But
into
is
the
the
country.
difference between 85 and 79 that big of a difference on like the 6 years difference? Is that big of a
Well-
difference on the stress of the healthcare
Oh, the health.
system?
Listen,
You know what I
I'm
mean?
30. I'm 30. I'll be 30. God, 36 this year. Oh man.
God bless. So young.
Hey, think about. I think about when I was 30
Yeah.
and what I could do when I was 30 and
Yeah,
what
my
I
knees
can.
hurt, bro.
36. So 6 years, aging wise,
Yeah.
it make a huge difference. So yes, it does make a huge difference from 75 to 80.
But are you like on a vegan diet or like that also depends.
Didn't you say you want to go for a steak after that? I'm joking.
I'm not
He's
Rabieh is
paying.
taking us
No,
out.
I'm joking.
Oh, I'm paying for this one too.
Yeah.
You're just putting all the
Rose
steak
Bowl.
dinners on me.
Yeah, I'll just barbecue a nice
are
steak
tough.
if you want proper steak.
I wish the weather is horrible right now. Otherwise, I would barbecue at home.
I'll make you a steak.
Okay.
I could barbecue day, night, rain or
Perfect.
shine.
Or you just never invite me when you do it.
I invite my good friends.
Yeah.
Elliott,
Yeah.
you coming by, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Elliott's got to brush
Don't
his
tell
teeth. He's
Rabieh.
got to go over.
I
He's
can't
gotta
get
brush
used to
his
the
teeth.
Rabieh, eh? Rabieh and Robbie. I
Rabieh,
know him
Robbie.
as Robbie, but
Rubes.
I'm gonna try and get used to the Rabieh now.
Stick to whatever you like, bro. It's okay.
Yeah.
He's a chameleon.
Exactly.
There you go.
Okay, so I always thought economic immigrants
Immigration?
were people that are coming in with tons of money. Like
No.
I know Portugal.
No,
I know
it's a matter of fact.
they have that visa. right?
Canada doesn't care about people with money because Canada has money. We care about human capital, which is language, age. Age is a big,
Intellect.
huge factor in
Okay.
Canada, right? The
So if you're
older you
80,
get,
yeah.
so in order to, if you're here at temporary resident, in order to transition to permanent residency, right? There's a program called the Express Entry, right? The Express Entry gives you points based on your language levels, on your age, based on your education, based on your work experience, and things like that.
Yeah.
And based on that, they start giving you points,
I see.
right? The older you are, the less points you get.
Interesting.
You understand what I mean? The younger you are, the more points
Well,
you
it's
get.
funny because it just made me remember there's a doctor. I
A
heard
doctor,
about.
41 years old. It's Express Entry.
She's a doctor.
Yeah.
She has a practice here
Correct.
in Ottawa.
Correct.
She actually practiced at the clinic I go to, where my
Correct.
family doctor
Yeah.
is. And she was trying to get her PR.
Yeah.
And they denied her based on her age. She's got a
It's not based on her age. Just that the amount of
the points. So she didn't have enough points. But
because
part of
the
it
age.
was
But it's
the
not
age.
just the age. It should be a bunch of different things.
Well, but like she's a doctor. She's
Yeah.
practicing. She's
Yeah.
She hits all the
things. So let's say
speaks 7 languages.
If you're a doctor, so they say if you have work experience, we'll give you 2 points. If you have in Canada work experience, we'll give you 2 points. If you have language abilities, very good English, we'll give you another 2 points. If you have this set of education, we'll give you another 2 points.
She meets
now
all
if
that.
you exactly now if you are 25 or 30 years old, we'll give you 5 points. If you're 41 points, we won't give you points. If
Oh,
you're 41 years old, we won't give you points. You
yeah.
understand what I mean?
I see.
So then she meets all the criteria and they say, okay, you need 10 points to be able to qualify for permanent residency. So she has all the points, but because of her age, she's 2 points
2
short.
points under.
You understand what
She's
I mean?
at 9 points.
So
but
if she
that's
was-
great.
so
That's
that's
a
what she
loss
said.
for Canada, though.
Damn.
Of course it is.
That's a loss for Canada.
Of course,
So-
because-
Especially when our healthcare system
So-
is in such like
so this is a
struggling the way
yeah.
it is.
this is a perfect segue for now the new immigration system.
So we do have a new immigration
Now
system?
we have it's still through the express entry, right? But now it's called the category based selection, because things like this, doctor, were happening, right? The government identified the 5 industries that Canada needs people in, because we do have a labor shortage.
Is realtors part of that?
No.
No.
God
Yeah,
forbid.
yeah.
we have too many of those actually.
Shipping
What
goes
are
back
the
up.
industries that
The
are
industry, the first one is healthcare.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now healthcare,
Construction
STEM
labor.
occupation, yes. Construction industry, agriculture industry, and transport industry. Essentially, medical to
Transpo?
hospital
Was
transport, because if you're going to the grocery store, we need to transport your vegetables or your fruits from that farm
Like
to
deliveries.
groceries. Deliveries. So if you're a truck driver,
But we're not attracting like tech or something like that? Like
that's
intellect-
STEM industries.
STEM?
STEM, yeah,
Oh.
which is science, technology, like
Oh, okay,
engineering and
Okay.
math.
But
But
je comprends.
there you go.
I'm
So
bilingual.
yeah, so we have that. So essentially, those are the 5 industries,
I see.
and if you work on those 5 industries, then you are able to. Then you remember that I was telling you about points,
The
right?
yeah.
So you need 10 points to qualify for permanent residency. But if you work in one of those 5 industries,
Yeah.
you don't need 10 points. You now need 5.
nice.
But
Okay.
only if you work on healthcare, if you're a doctor, nurse, if you're a construction worker, if you are a butcher,
Like cutting up meat?
because we don't have. And the problem is that farms who are poultry farms, they need to, cut
Yeah.
meat to bring to the
Yeah.
grocery
Yeah.
store. We don't have enough people to do that. So the farm cannot raise enough.
What?
You understand what I mean?
So they can't
So it's
butcher
a
the meat
huge-
as quickly as they can raise it.
Yeah, and so then guess who's paying more at
Yeah,
the
so we're
grocery
paying
store?
more because we have less meat on the table.
Correct.
Inflation.
Inflation.
It's going down.
Wow. Okay, so those
So,
are very good policies.
Very
to put in
good.
place.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But we don't
excellent
care about the
policies.
amount of money to come in and to produce.
No,
See,
We
like, because
care-
based on our research, we're finding that our GDP numbers have been down,
correct.
but that also means, like, on a per capita basis,
Yes,
but it also
correct.
means that we're not producing as a nation.
Correct.
Every individual is producing less
so,
and less and
so,
less.
So the problem, like Bank of Canada, right? In the last
love
meeting, they said,
Yeah.
they identified the 3 different things that they think that are hurting the economy, right? Which is, number 1 is what you're saying. You're right, productivity.
Yeah.
The second is competition, the lack of competition in the market, and the third is the investment, lack of investment.
Correct. So that's what I was asking
So
about the
yeah, so productivity. What productivity means that how fast can a person make $1?
Yeah.
Right. So it takes me an hour to make $1 in the States. A person who works an hour makes makes $1.30. In France, a person who works an hour makes $1, produces, right, of through the
value,
labor
yeah.
of value, makes $1.20.
Yeah.
Canada, you work an hour, you make only $1. You understand what I
maybe
mean?
80
So
cents. Yeah.
or maybe 80 cents.
So,
exactly.
before or
we're
after
less
taxes.
efficient than those
Exactly. So
countries.
we're less efficient, but then they're saying, okay, why are we less efficient? Because we have people who
Yeah.
come to Canada, right? We have doctors, nurses, we have engineers and everything who come, and now they can produce $2 in an hour, right? They come to Canada and they realize, we have to get a license. It's so hard to get.
we can't
So
do
now they start working as Uber drivers or as taxi drivers.
Yeah.
So now they're only producing 50 cents in an hour, but they're capable of producing $2 in an hour. You understand?
Yeah.
So our productivity, that person's productivity
Is bringing
went
the
down.
average down.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and then our whole economy. So we need
That's been a problem.
But
though,
that-
right?
it is
that's
it
been
is
day
for
one.
a
For a very long
That
time.
happened
For a
to my
very-
mom actually.
exactly, yeah.
She was a nurse in England,
imagine
and then came
in
here.
England.
In England.
Yeah,
and they
take
did
that
it,
in.
and she
Couldn't.
Well, I remember I
But
used to work
this-
at
In
a
England.
Yeah.
imagine like what?
We're following that system.
Like-
That's
telling
that
you.
we bought the curriculum from them.
All right, my mom's coming on the show.
You're
Right?
kidding me?
I swear to God.
What? Like that? You see, that's where I have a problem. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. They're coming from countries who have higher educations,
Who invented
Systems.
the language?
and then they come here, and their education that they spent years and years for don't mean anything anymore.
Yeah,
And they gotta start from the bottom
taxi
again.
drivers have you had that are like PhDs?
yeah.
Do you know what PhD is?
Like, how do you spell that?
QRS.
There's an H in silence, so PD. Because
Oh, you got
That-
to throw that in there.
you guys
right?
missed that. You know, Latinos don't pronounce the H. That's
Yeah.
why.
So yeah.
For those,
Omar didn't believe him.
yeah. Until you give me the Jose example.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Jose with an H.
Yeah. I don't even know why we're talking about. No. Oh, it
We're
was
talking
the-
about Jesus, not Jose.
No, that's so J, bro. What are you talking
It's
about?
still a J.
It's when he's saying ha 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 instead he writes
Yes.
J A
H
J
is
He
A.
said that's how you laugh with a J-A-J-A.
That's how you laugh.
Yeah.
Ja, 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 ja.
Yeah, because the H is silent
Yeah.
in English.
But the J is
Understand.
pronounced as an H.
yes.
It's very
No.
complicated.
The H is silent, man.
No,
No,
In
I
all
know.
languages.
But
Yeah,
you
I'm
pronounce it.
joking.
I'm
Outta
so
here.
yeah.
I like Frankie. I can't lie.
Just messing with you.
Yeah.
This is all fantastic. Thank you very
Yeah.
much for all this info.
No, it's okay.
Do you guys have any extra questions that you want to throw at him? No.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was very informative and gave us a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
Which is
I
quite
know.
rare on this podcast.
Yeah, yeah. I think this goes down in history as our best guest so far.
Yeah.
Sorry to the other guests, but
Oh,
like the amount of knowledge
man.
that was dropped on us today.
Don't
Yeah.
do
Well,
that,
Frankie
eh?
is a radio host.
Yeah.
So he's got experience.
He's got the
the whole-
sauce. He's
the
ready.
whole works.
He's
There
him.
you go. So,
Yeah.
He-
No,
well,
we really
chill, I'm
appreciate
Yeah,
all
so
this.
yeah. Since you mentioned the radio host, yeah, the Spanglish Hour every single
I
Thursday,
listen to it all the
97.9 FM.
You're
Yeah,
a
you see, yeah,
fucking
yeah,
Wait,
exactly.
what?
97.9 FM.
No way.
Machine Radio, yeah.
How do we get on one of those shows?
Yeah,
You gotta speak
Spanish.
Spanish.
I know a
You
guy.
speak Spanglish?
How can they reach you if somebody's watching and they need immigration
At
services?
Mikasa Canada.
Mikasa
on,
Canada.
Yeah,
Well,
MikasaCanada.com
.com.
or my Instagram. You know.
Well,
Don't
add
worry.
his
Which I'm
Instagram to
hoping that you tag me, man.
I will. But
We'll-
you know,
we'll
that's
talk
going
to
to cost you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll talk
Well-
numbers after.
Yeah.
So we'll figure it out.
Oh, well, the tag is it's $5.
Yeah. It's 10 points. You want
Yeah.
to qualify? Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Welcome. Not welcome.
Ah,
I was going to answer myself. Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah.
He's a professor, guys.
Yeah.
No wonder education systems.
It's completely
We got
messed
people
up.
like him teaching.
Anyways, we're very happy that GDP might actually start coming up if the
Oh,
new
yeah.
system
Yeah.
is implemented for immigration. Immigration is not all bad, so I know there's some negative.
Wait, can
rhetoric
I?
out
Can
there.
I do have a follow up question?
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. When is that system in play, or is it already
It,
in play?
it actually, they started it on June of 2023, last
June
year.
of 2023.
So a lot of people are having a harder time qualifying for permanent residence, and that's one of the big issues that are with international students right now, especially, right? That they're saying we paid all this money in schooling in Canada, and we speak the language, and we,
Oh, because they don't meet those categories.
they don't meet this guy.
Like if
Correct.
a guy came here for business,
See, if you study business marketing, let's say, and you
Yeah.
speak really good English, and you have 3 years of work experience, you won't have enough points to.
Wait, but you could
What the
still
hell?
no. But
Yes.
could you not still get to 10 points relatively easily?
No, it's very hard. It's very hard. Yeah.
But people were doing it before.
People were doing it before, but
But it was different
the
criteria.
government said before I need 10 points. The government would say we'll invite everybody who has 7 points or will have 6 points. Now the government is saying no. If you want to qualify to this program, you need 10 points.
But
Just to make, like, this is not the number of points, but just to,
Yeah.
so people can understand, right? But now they're saying, okay, if you have 7 points or 6, we won't invite you unless you have 10 points. But if you have 5 points and work in healthcare or work in construction or work in STEM occupation, or you're a transport, or you're a butcher, then we'll invite you.
Okay, but
even though if you don't have the 10 points.
But what he's saying is that if somebody's been here for
Correct.
3 years,
Yeah.
Correct.
and then now they're applying for permanent residence.
They can't get it. They can't get.
They have
10
the
points.
age, they have the language, they have the work experience. They have.
So
They have a bit of
we need
wasted
10
time.
points, and the person has 9 points. The government won't get that person. It'll be very hard to get unless. So that's when I call it like a supply and demand, right? So Canada demands certain occupation. The best thing that a person can do is become a supply for that demand. If the demand is here and your skill set is here, like, you won't get.
So a guy that's in business marketing, speaks English, been here 3 years, working.
He
3
has
years.
once he graduates, he has to go work as a butcher, as a construction worker, as a plumber, as an electrician.
Okay, so he could do that,
correct,
and then reapply.
and then apply, and then
Okay.
yeah,
Okay,
and
and
then
then
he'll be invited.
Someone's always going to
So-
take a loss, though. And overall, we need these
Correct.
categories for
Yeah.
Canada. So you're
Because
now
it's-
attracting those people.
I know.
Yeah.
Just I
right?
feel bad for the people that are already here.
That
somebody always takes the
part,
short end.
That part
Yeah.
is that part is.
But you can always pivot.
Yes, the
Yeah,
You can always
argument-
pivot, right?
Yeah.
He's saying just go get a new job.
Well,
in
how
those
many people
fields.
do you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
that got a job in or went to school for a certain field and
Mhm.
didn't end up working?
No,
in that
I didn't
field,
realize
right?
that you could just go and get a job in that field
Yeah.
and you're okay.
Correct.
If
Yeah.
that's the case, I thought like you studied marketing and then all of a sudden now you have to go study
No,
butcher.
no.
It's like you, CPA, but you're not an
Yeah.
accountant.
Yeah.
I used to be though. I'm still a CPA. bro.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you pivoted.
I
Yeah.
pivot.
You don't do accounting anymore.
Correct.
You're like
So-
Ross from Friends.
Yeah, pivot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you
so
guys know that.
so that's the so if you graduate and you work in one of those in-demand
Okay,
occupations,
okay.
you will be okay.
Okay, so follow-up question then. I know we're over time here, but if so all those industries seem to be fairly transferable skills from other countries to here.
Yeah.
But
So
I know the health one tends to be the biggest issue.
yes.
So are we doing anything on that? I know
Yeah,
it's not
because the
your domain.
experience. Yeah, no, it is.
Okay,
The experience can be. So if you have like, let's say, healthcare. I'm gonna use the example of healthcare.
Nurse, doctor.
You need to have 6 months experience on those to be able to qualify through this category based.
But how can a surgeon, let's say, a
Mhm.
brain surgeon from Lebanon
Yeah.
comes to Canada, how will he
Are,
get
are they
qual-
gonna
like,
are
how
they
is he-
gonna respect what he already has?
Of course,
Or-
yes.
So
yes.
now-
so to immigrate to Canada, but once a person gets here, that's where the problem is.
Yes.
For that brain surgeon
he can't,
to work as a brain surgeon here,
which is the highest level to GDP.
that's where the
So
provinces
that
need
will
to come.
help them get into the country.
Correct.
But once
Getting-
they're in the country, they won't be able to work.
So we still haven't solved the
So-
issue.
Yeah.
So
So,
yeah.
this is where the provinces, this is where the provinces need to come. This is where the provinces need
Yeah.
to come into play, because the problem is that doctor, carpenter, electrician,
All licensed.
nurses, they're all licensed professions, and they're licensed in the province. So if you become a lawyer in Ontario, you cannot practice in Alberta or anything. You have to like register and do a test with that law
Yes.
society.
Yeah.
Same thing with doctors, same thing with nurses, same thing. You become a license on that in that province. So
Yeah.
what we need is to make sure that the licensing bodies of those provinces make it easier for a brain surgeon from Lebanon with 10 years of experience, that is now the federal government brought it here,
Yeah.
is able to get a license so that
They
can
need to
work
kind of
in there.
expedite the process so they don't start from scratch.
Do you understand
You've
what I
got
mean?
this
Exactly.
experience.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but-
I think that they would have like an exam of some
but that is,
sort.
but then
plus
that's
a
the
couple
that's the problem.
courses.
Then this the regulating bodies say, oh, I'm protecting
Yes.
the public, and then like I'm making it's hard to get because this is how
Because they didn't
But
pay
we
into
need
the
it.
medical schools. here.
Need
Yeah.
but we need it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
like
so-
we need.
yeah.
So I think that
I see.
Canadians now we are waking up and we're saying like it's going to be harder for provinces to not fund because we want
We
less
need it.
international. We want in the case of international students, right? We want less international students, right? So the provinces have to fund the educational institution because nobody wants to see McGill or Ottawa U or Carleton
Yeah.
go under. We want those, the province needs to fund those, need to fund those, right, so that we can have a cap on interest. And then and the provinces have to do that because normal people are now paying attention, and we're saying, hey, like,
Yeah, but if the medical association or the bodies or the regulators,
they have to make it easier. They have to make it easier. We have to.
And who has the power to do that? It would have to be the province.
The provinces. Exactly.
So they would have to add
the premiers have to go to the licensing body, because the prime minister cannot go, because the prime minister
it's
now
It's not his job.
It's not his job.
Yeah, it's not
yeah,
his
because that
jurisdiction.
stopped them.
You
before.
understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he gets yeah. So then that's where the provinces come into place.
We're bringing Pierre Poilievre on the next show, by the way.
There you go.
We're just, just we're gonna talk about.
You're just
all
making
this stuff.
promises.
Maybe he'll see this and be like, "Yeah, okay." He's been
Okay.
wanting to talk to me for a
Why
while.
not? Yeah.
Ever since he became a professor.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna go talk to Hashem.
Without
Yeah,
the
without the
Hashem.
H.
Hashem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not Hashem.
Yeah.
Hashem.
Okay, this
So,
is very interesting.
Yeah. So then that's where the provinces come, and the licensing bodies have to make it easier for professionals to be able to get their license and work in this in-demand occupations.
What a convoluted and complicated scenario. Like at the end of the day, nothing stops them from saying, no, I'm not going to give these licenses to these new doctors.
Correct.
Right? You haven't paid into the body.
Yeah, exactly.
So
the government, the federal government
But
can bring those people
it's
in.
done. So you haven't paid into the body, so we won't let you come in and produce for the body.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like they'll
So
make
then-
that money anyways.
And we'll
Exactly.
let Canadians suffer because now wait times on surgeries
That's
is
ridiculous.
worse
That's
than the pandemic.
30.
Yeah.
I think I saw an article that said 30% of the nurses that come here are able to get their license.
30.
30.
Oh, it's not.
But like 30 out of 100
Yeah.
that come. So it's not good.
No.
We need to make it. But if you study in Canada, 70%, that number jumps in. If you study in Canada, you graduate, 70% of the graduates are able to get their. So we need that 30%, that number needs to increase because we need the nurses.
Yeah.
Needs to be like an inverse.
Exactly, needs to be an inverse.
Well, yeah, like I know so many friends that from back home, they were doctors and then they're coming here and then they have to redo it again. And most of them successfully become either pharmacists, doctors, nurses, etc. But they have a dual degree essentially. They've practiced. Some of them practice like 10 years back in like areas of like high levels of education, and it's not strong enough.
Yeah.
Apparently, the UK is one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's quite surprising.
Usually that was 20 years ago, so I don't know if that's changed.
I have
over time,
right now.
but-
I had a client from Ireland and had a teaching license in
like to be a
England
teacher.
to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And she was able to get her license to become a
Equivalency.
teacher here in she learned French, so now she's a francophone teacher in Ontario. So we just applied for permanent residence. We're hoping that immigration approves it. Hello,
If you're watching,
Next time he's here, we'll let you know.
if you're watching content, I'll give you her name and we can get her approved. Yeah.
Yeah, but we have to wrap up now, guys.
Frankie's being humble though. Every client of his gets.
He's not lying.
Your money back guarantee.
Yeah. If not, talk to Ashram.
Yeah, my new college will be announced soon.
Ashram College.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So we do really have to wrap up because I
Yes,
know Jacob
yeah.
is getting antsy. But so this is all good because then hopefully we get to resolve the GDP issue.
That's exactly.
It won't resolve until we actually have a proper immigration system that talks to the licensing bodies in the provinces. And it won't resolve until essentially all these people are on the same pace and housing is up there. Healthcare is revamped. Education is revamped. The whole thing needs to get a proper boost and a holistic approach. But tune in for more with BAM, and we'll see how we can resolve all these things.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you again, Frank.
The next
Thank you,
episode, we'll
Frankie.
find a solution.
Yeah, exactly. Tune in.
Catch us on Chin Radio 97.9
FM every
the
single
Spanish
Thursday from 8 to 9. Not the Spanglish.
Spanglish.
There
hour.
you go. Half English, half Spanish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do the English.
There you go.